But after 6 months or a year or 2 years of those good days, I've got 2 very good years, right? And I look back and it's like, oh, wow, well, I guess I did all that. But I think that's really, one of the keys is really taking one day at a time. One of the big problems now that's very misguided about this idea of finding your passion, it's almost as if people are looking to fit the key into the lock of the thing that was meant for them to do.
Right. And then everything will feel like a natural progression.
Right. And then everything will be wonderful.
Yeah, I can attest to the fact that is not how it works in any endeavor.
Right. And that you'll have all this great success and here's where I really think the answer lies. And I really, really believe this. Stop looking for your passion and instead look around right where you are. Stop distracting yourself, look around right where you are and see what needs to be done. So not what do I want to do, but what is the work that needs to be done? And more importantly, it doesn't have to be some grandiose work. Like, does the garbage need to be taken out, right? Is there some garbage on your neighbor's lawn that someone threw there that you could actually bend over and pick up and put into the garbage can? Look around you. There is so much work that needs to be done that nobody wants to do that is really, really important. And if we all did that, I really think the world would be a much better place. And this is what people who have severe addiction who get into recovery realize. They're like, it's not about me and my will and what I'm going to will in my life or in the world. It's about looking around what needs to be done. What is the work that I am called to do in this moment? Which also is incredibly freeing because I don't have to search for the perfect thing. There's a lot of burden now on young people that they have to find that perfect thing. And until they've found that perfect thing, they're going to be miserable. You don't have to do that. Look at the life you were given. Look at the people around you. Look at the jobs that present themselves to you and do that job simply and honorably one day at a time. With a kind of humility. I think this is really what's so striking to me about the wisdom of people in recovery. There's this incredible humility that comes out of that experience. You feel so broken, so ashamed, but you pick yourself up one day at a time and you build a life that's around what can I do right in this moment that might benefit another person and thereby benefit me.
Yeah, it's a really important point. And if you're willing, I'd like to actually stay on this issue of passion because I think the dopamine systems, if I understand them correctly, the dopamine systems merge with this work that you're referring to, this immediacy of things calling to us, like taking out the trash, which sounds frankly really boring, to be honest. Yeah. I hate taking out the trash, but I do it because I like a clean home and I like a home that smells good.
Yeah.
Or at least doesn't smell bad. So we do these things, and not that we want to offer some larger carrot as a consequence of doing those things. But if I understand correctly, what you're saying is in the act of looking at one's immediate environment, acting on that immediate environment, we cultivate a relationship to these circuits in our brain about action and reward that, at least to my mind, span the range of small things being rewarding and then lead us to bigger things being rewarding. It's not like all we're going to do is take out trash and tend to house. We eventually will venture out and we eventually will find careers and work on those. But if I understand correctly, you're talking about getting into a sort of functional or adaptive action step. And it's the action step that these days we tend to overlook because most of our mindset is in things that are truly outside of our immediate reality. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, that was beautifully said. And I would just add to that, I see a lot of young people who, for example, spend most of their waking hours playing video games. And they come to me and they say, I'm anxious and depressed. I'm majoring in computer science. I hate it. I thought I would like it. If I could only find that thing that I was really meant to do, my life would be better. And my first intervention for the many, many people like that I see in clinical care is, you have it backwards. I don't say it quite like that. Mm-hmm. You were waiting for that thing to pull you out of the video game world, and you're never going to find it as long as you're playing video games, because video games are so powerfully dopaminergic that you have this distorted sense of really pleasure and pain, and you will not be able to find that thing that you enjoy. And so, of course, the intervention is abstain from video games, reset your reward pathways, start with a level balance. And what invariably happens, and I've just seen it over 20 years so many times, I've become really a believer in this. all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, my computer science class is interesting this quarter. It's like, okay, you have a receptivity then to experiencing pleasure and reward in a way you just don't have when you're bombarding your reward pathways with these high dopamine drugs.
Very interesting. And just to underscore this notion that tending to the immediate things can lead to superformance. I have the great privilege of having some close friends that were in the SEAL teams and doing some work with those communities. And it's a remarkable community for reasons that I think most people don't understand. People think they see the images carrying logs down the beach and all the blowing stuff out, all the stuff that's fun for guys like that. But all of the guys I know who are in the SEAL teams have this sense of duty about immediate things, and not just holding the door and helping with the dishes and moving things around. They are constantly scanning their environment for what can be done. They essentially conquer every environment they're in. They are also some of the most competitive human beings, but they do it in the world, and they do it unless they're in the act of warfighting, which is their real job. They do it in every environment in a very benevolent way. And it's a remarkable thing because I think it's what is part of what they're selected for. And there's a range there. But I think when we hear about tending to the immediate things, or this phrase, how you do one thing is how you do anything, that's a tricky one for me because there's certain things I just don't do well. But should we always be trying? I think that the tending to setting the horizon in closely, and tending to things in one's immediate environment, I think it is very powerful and translates. Because again, I think the nervous system, it performs algorithms. It has action steps. The brain doesn't evolve to do one thing. It evolves to be able to use the same approach to doing lots of different things.
I just want to add, so even beyond that, because that totally resonates for me and is very consistent with people in recovery from addiction who learn to take it one day at a time, which is one of the, standard lingo from Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step groups. But I think also, as you say, our brain is really wired for the 24-hour period. We're not very good at sort of the, 10-year, 20, we have these huge frontal lobes, and yes, we're great planners and but if we live too much in that space, we can really get very anxious and depressed and lost and either catastrophize or get grandiose. But if you can chunk it down to a day, what people in recovery talk about is how if I can just do today right, then I will get a chain of days that seem insignificant in their individual units. But after 6 months or a year or 2 years of those good days, I've got 2 very good years, right? And I look back and it's like, oh, wow, well, I guess I did all that. But I think that's really, one of the keys is really taking it one day at a time, which your SEALs, and also this connecting with the environment, right? So being awake and alert to your environment and connecting with your environment, not trying to escape it. And of course, escapism is what we all want and desire, that experience of non-being. And we get it from the internet or from drugs or whatever it is, but it's the booby prize because ultimately it takes you further and further away from your immediate environment, which is where we really have to connect to get that sense of groundedness and authenticity and of being in our own lives.